Incoming transmission.
We're going to leave all this in. Hey everybody, this is Ed with Boosting the Signal. This week, my guest is Duncan K. Fraser. And believe it or not, this took 18 tries to get right. So, hey, Duncan,
Way
how's it
few.
going?
Great, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No,
I
yeah,
love
well,
your
glad
content.
you're
It's
here.
really fun to see you around, like boosting people and stuff.
It's fun. I mean, as weird as it sounds, it's actually kind of fun to do. I think somewhere along the lines I missed my calling in life. Maybe it's not podcasting, but maybe it's promoting. I like,
Hmm.
helping get the word out for things. And
I love that, and I'm kind of the same way, and that's what I love the most. And we'll get into this about my group letter decks. Is I get to lift other people up and show everyone, hey, look at all these things this person did, and I get to do my own stuff too. But it's just so gratifying, right, to just lift others up.
it is. And speaking of letter decks,
Mhm.
and we're also going to have to touch on legacy decks because I'm aware of
Ooh,
it.
nice.
I do pay attention to
You
your
know
other
people.
podcast appearances.
Ah,
Uh,
thank you. Thank you. Thanks
But
for
yeah,
watching.
why don't you tell everybody what letter decks is so we get a little bit of an idea? And as a precursor to anybody that doesn't know, Duncan is a was a background actor on Star Trek Enterprise. I guess
Mhm.
we should have prefaced with that for those that don't know you, but to explain now, explain letter decks.
Okay, okay, sure. So as you said, I was a background actor, but that is, wasn't just one episode. I was on about 20 or more episodes. I haven't cataloged all of them and dug out all the call sheets, but I started end of season 2 with the finale, The Expanse, and worked all through seasons 3 and 4 and was on the final episode as well. Lots of featured spots, and I had a little speaking part also that I auditioned for on Bound, the one with the Orion women who almost took over the ship, where I was credited as crewman number 2 also. Um, uh, I already had my character name on the show, but SAG, union rules, etc. But anyway, so letter decks. Uh, when you work in Hollywood and you were on a show as a background actor 20 years ago, nobody cares. Like it has no relevance at all in business. But I moved out of Hollywood, got out of Hollywood after working for 20 years in acting and then operations at the studios, and realized that anywhere other than Hollywood, if you are on Star Trek, people care. And I started thinking about my life and that I love talking about being on the show. It's the best thing that I've ever done. And I'm a huge Star Trek fan since I was like 8 years old. So being on the show was a real dream come true, honestly, and was just exciting and awesome every day. So I started thinking, how do I get to conventions to tell my stories? Because I'm sure people want to hear them, but I'm not an A-lister or anything. I can't just be like, hey, look how famous I am, and have me at your convention. So I came up with this idea, and I pitched it to a colleague who was also on the show, who was on the whole run of the show and did not only crew but aliens and everything. His name is Glenn Hambley. That what we could do is dress like veterans of Starfleet. So we're talking about the trucker hat with the ship and an XO1 on it, and go around at conventions, talk to people in Star Trek cosplay who clearly love Star Trek, throw them some love about their cosplay and everything, get some pictures, and then say, hey, by the way, we were on Enterprise, and we're having dinner over at this place. If you want to come over and join us and hear stories about being, working on the show. It's kind of like those vets that sit, at the bar and are like, let me tell you about the war kind of thing, right? And so Glenn went with me to the big Seattle con, and we tested it out, and it worked like real well, and it's just blown up over time. We're called letter decks, just to back up a little bit, because of course Lower Decks is an excellent show and very popular, so people know that it's in the zeitgeist. And I started this a year ago, so even more. It had only just finished a few months prior, and we basically played the Lower Decks type of characters on the show, doing all the schlep jobs and whatever. And so I went to figure out, how do I make this specific to our show, but sort of reference Lower Decks without doing an IP infringement thing. And in my research, realized our enterprise is the only one that has letters on the decks instead of numbers, like throughout the whole franchise. So our group is Letter Decks, and made a logo and everything, and recruited a bunch more people. And we had our own panel of six of us, moderated by Larry Nemechek in Las Vegas last year. And we've done many conventions, even recently, been on a lot of podcasts. And coming up in Las Vegas, I just got news, and you're the first one to record and like know about it outside of our group. Um, Originally, we were only going to be talent at the special Enterprise event on Saturday night where all the cast and everyone's showing up. We were going to be talent for that as well. But now we are actually going to have a panel and a booth presence, and basically they're hooking us up. So Letterdex is going to be all over STLV. It'll be great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
Yes.
now that's not too far out and even closer by the time this airs. And so yeah, that's great news.
Fun, right?
Yeah, yeah, I really admire everybody getting to go there, or envy, I should say, getting to go there. It's something I would love to do.
Hmm.
But I love living vicariously through you all.
And
And now
I
one
don't
thing that,
blame you. Like it's a lot of expense, it's a lot of logistics, but
oh yeah.
totally worth it. I had only like last year was my first time going. It's absolutely bonkers, but the networking you can do, the people you can meet is just insane. The only better thing is the cruise, I hear, because I haven't been on that yet.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't been on that cruise. Yeah, I definitely would love to do that. I will, something popped in my head. You're talking
Yeah.
about the trucker hats, and I put myself in the mindset of the Star Trek Enterprise universe, and I'm thinking about
Hmm.
like, we saw Archer wearing a hat, we've seen Trip wearing a hat, we've seen Reed wear a hat. I do believe even like, I did we see Anthony Montgomery wear a hat on there? We may have, but anyway,
Probably at
so
least once.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think when he went home, when he was on it, when he went home,
Yeah.
yeah. But the point
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
so hats are really prevalent in the Star
Hmm.
Trek universe, and yeah, maybe in early TOS, like the Cage, you would see variations of caps and stuff.
Hmm.
But I started thinking about, it, I was like, that is something that has kind of gone away from Star Trek. You don't see someone on the Enterprise D rocking a ball cap. Yes,
Right. Right.
DS9, but let's not touch on DS9 in baseball. And I
Okay.
started thinking about, I was like, at what point would those proposed retired crewmen, letter deckers as you were, would be,
Hmm.
at what point would they actually be the old people sitting in the bar and people walking by going, what are they wearing? What are they wearing?
Right.
But it's just,
Right.
so in my mind I'm thinking about that, and the weird thing is we all would love to see a new Archer series that has been
Yes.
out there, and we know it's
Yeah.
proposed, we know it's a a theoretical. Would
Hmm.
you be opposed to coming back and being on that, even though you don't live within Hollywood any longer?
Oh no. In fact, it's a funny thing. Life is funny, right? Moving to the Pacific Northwest and getting out of Hollywood made me think of this idea and now is drawing me back in. So I'm actually getting back into acting. I've done a couple of voice roles with one of the podcasts for Roddenberry Entertainment.
Okay.
Those credits are on IMDb now. So got my first new credits in 20 years. I just had new headshots done. I'm going to debut those here shortly. So to answer your question, I would love to be back on. And as a matter of fact, amongst my many side quest goals for the convention, and I'm machinating quite a lot, is reconnecting with Michael Sussman because I've he worked on Enterprise, of course. He actually wrote the first episode where the character Walsh was named. And he's been super busy, but I was able to get a hold of Andre Bormanis, who was his co-writer for that episode. And I asked him if he knew like how they chose that name, and he said, "Well, Michael's a big fan of the original series, so he probably pulled it from there." And sure enough, the name that Mudd gave as his name when he was first on the Enterprise was Leo Walsh. And
Huh.
then we learn later in that episode that that was the actual captain of the ship he was on, who passed away under suspicious circumstances, shall we say. So I can only imagine that that was the impetus, and I hope that Michael Sussman remembers that, and I can, it's a conversation starter, and just to say, you know what, I've got this group, we do veterans thing, at the very least, you could have a veteran bar and have, Archer go in there and just like all of us are lined up at the bar and we're just like giving him a little signal like we see him all the time or something, right? Just to like have an appearance. But I mean, I'm an actor. Like I mentioned, I auditioned in front of basically everybody, like Rick Berman and Brandon Braga and Terry Matalas, who was the assistant to Brandon at the time, and the writers on Bound, and the director Alan Craker, and read against Junie Lowry Johnson, like for the part. Like they didn't hand it to me on set. I just want to make clear about that. But I booked that role, right? And that was back then. And I'm not out of practice, so I hope that I can angle it somehow. Side quest is reconnect with Michael Sussman and put me in his mind as, hey, think of me while you're doing the series, right? I'd love to make a little appearance or something, or maybe a bigger
Wait,
appearance.
stopping short of stalking, just find out where he's going to be at the convention, Like,
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
I get that.
I mean, and I know people who know him, so like it won't be hard. The thing that's challenging about STLV is just how vast it is and how many
Yeah.
people there are around all the time. So, I mean, you have to walk like half a mile to get from your hotel room to where the entrance of the convention is indoors, right? Um, so yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to find him. You're right. Like he's going to be on the schedule, so I'll just like ambush him someplace, someplace, and be professional, of course.
Of course, of course, of course. Well, I look forward to hearing how that turns out.
Oh, thanks. Me too.
And like you said, you've been on other podcasts. I'm pretty
Mhm.
good about, pretty much if someone's on a podcast I'm watching, I may not always comment, but I'm always
Yeah.
there.
I see you in the chat a lot, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it depends on who I decide to log in as. I either My Figure Universe, and then I'm like, well, I need to promote the podcast. So it's like, so I start logging in as
Right.
that. And but if I really want to go all out, I'll log in as my real name, and nobody will know.
Right.
So
Ironically.
yeah, but yeah, yeah. I know. What was it on recently? I think it was you were. Oh man, I can't remember which one I was watching when you talked about legacy decks, but I
There are
would
two
love to
that
hear.
might have been. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to hear more about legacy decks.
I'd love to talk more about it. The two that do you mind if I mention other podcasts?
No, that's fine. I
Okay.
this
Oh,
It's
you're boosting the
boosting the
signal. Duh.
signal.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. That's what you do. So, one that I talked about it on was the transporter room. In the video you can watch now on YouTube that is Letter Decks What's Next with Duncan K. Fraser. I get into it there. And then I also mentioned it in a little more detail when I did a live episode with Trekking Up North recently.
that's the one I
Um,
saw.
love those guys. Okay, yeah, they're so much fun. I
You were on
love
there for
going on
about
the show.
2 hours that night.
Yeah,
That
well, we
one
get
went.
to talking. It's just it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun chat. And they're going to be in Las Vegas, so
That's good.
watch for those pictures, right? We're probably going to do some live streaming from there too. We'll see if we can set that up. Anyway, legacy decks. So when we went to Las Vegas last year, uh we of course made a bit of a splash, just that we were there at all, and we didn't just have the panel and then just like people show up to the panel, like because of the sort of MOS that I or the I'm sorry, the SOP that I made for letter decks. We worked the convention from Tuesday all the way up until our panel, which was on Friday, just like letting people know. And I made flyers and all this stuff, right? So, and went around and met people. And one of the people that I wanted to meet, that I got to meet, was Tracy Coco, who is
Okay.
known for as Lieutenant J. She does conventions all the time. She was on like most of the seasons of TNG and all but one of the films of that cast.
Yeah, I don't think she
Super
was in
cool. Love
Insurrection,
her.
was she? Did we not see her in one?
Correct. She wasn't
Yeah.
in the last one. Yeah,
Oh,
correct.
okay.
Somehow. But she's so fun. She's really cool. She's just like a really like big personality, right? And I invited her to come to our panel. She showed up, and I called her out from the stage and was like, "Let's hear it for the OG background actor who shows up to conventions, Tracy Coco, Lieutenant J in the audience." And she stood up and like blew us kisses and stuff. So it was just like really cool that she showed up. Afterward, stopped by her booth again to say thanks, and she's like, "I want to be on your panel," and I'm like, "Ooh, uh, love that." And then my other part of my brain's like, how do I incorporate her into a group that's like very specifically enterprise, and without making my friends and colleagues feel like I'm pushing them out or making it weird or whatever. And so I socialized it with them, with the Letterdex crew, and we basically came to I need to make a separate group somehow. So I started thinking about, well, what name could I make it? And I came up with a name after a lot of thinking that was right in front of me all the whole time because I was trying to think of another L word that applied to Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, and looping in the original series because why not, right? And finally came up with legacy because it's right there, right? Like it's a word that's in the zeitgeist. People are talking about Star Trek Legacy. Love to see that. Please, please, Paramount people, do it. But um, so that's what the group is. It's the same idea as Letterdex, which is it's all of us actors and stand-ins and maybe more that did the lower decks type of jobs on the ship get to tell their stories kind of under this umbrella of the group, where individually they're not, people aren't necessarily as cool and have as much screen time as Tracy Coco, right? So I started recruiting for this thing, and uh, coming up, we are going to launch. I've got a logo, I've got the socials ready. I've got podcast recording scheduled for the 23rd of this month with the transporter room. I don't know when it's going to air, but the people that I've gotten at least one person and some more from each of those shows. So the podcast is going to have Tracy Coco, of course, she's the headliner, and Robin Morcelli, who a lot of people maybe don't know about, but she was Nana Visitor's stand-in on
Oh,
DS9, and she did a lot of on-screen background acting and stunts and aliens and all kinds of things. Like she was a powerhouse on that show, and she did some utility stand-in stuff on Enterprise after DS9 ended and some other stuff. So she's going to be great to have. Then I have a person who worked a lot on Enterprise that I know from that and had already brought him in to Letterdex and hadn't got him out yet is J.R. Quiones. JR was Bob Picardo's stand-in on Voyager for the whole time. And Bob has had him come to conventions in the past and everything. So I think that sort of fell off the radar, but like there's a good connection with them there. So great crossover too. Like JR shows up, I've got stuff for Letter decks and for Legacy decks, right? And then I went through a couple iterations or a couple of different people for original series, starting with Sean Kenny.
okay.
Sean had too many, he was booked up, right? And Tracy Coco has worked with him even recently on productions, acting stuff. And so she knew him, and that was kind of my in there. But he and his wife Taki loved the idea so much that they referred me to Sandy Gimpel and also Tanya Lamani George.
Huh?
And Sandy similarly was a bit too busy, and it turns out I didn't know until like a few days after I talked to her that Chris had already had her on the transporter room, and her video actually just came out. So she's an amazing Hollywood story, just amazing. Everyone should watch her interview. But she passed, but Tanya Lamani George was game, so she is going to be on that panel interview also. So that'll be the introducing legacy decks, and then I'll be pushing out the socials and even more. I have just yesterday pitched the idea that legacy decks could do a panel at this STLV to the person who's in charge of that. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to reveal who's in charge of that, but um, fingers crossed. I haven't heard back about that. but
Yeah, let's not reveal any names that might not,
we'll see.
need,
Yeah.
because it's too much of a pain to bleep things.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
I
Right. Politics.
That's great. That would have led me into my what do you have any upcoming appearances? But we know Transporter Room, we got STLV coming up, and that's
Hmm.
great. I want to make sure we have all of that information, the dates and everything else. I want to put on the screen.
Nice. All right.
Um, but yeah, and of course, like, if you're not checking out, like, trekking up north or Transporter Room, check them out. I know you've been on
Hmm.
Captain's Quadrant, so
I have a couple of times.
yeah.
Love those guys too, man. They're so fun. Like
They're
it's been
okay.
great meeting all these cool, fun people like you and like them that I get to hang out with and talk about Star Trek and talk about being on Star Trek. Like just it's such a I'm so grateful. Like in general, it's just a huge blessing to get to talk about these stories, and that was the whole point. But I just had no idea that it would blow up this big. It's a huge blessing, really.
No, I get it. I mean, I come from a background where I grew up not having people to talk to about Star
Mm,
Trek. I was always a Star Trek fan, and like, uh, last year when I started to come up with the idea for this, and I had talked to Larry Nemechek for a little while
yeah.
about it, and he threw out a phrase, and I was like, I gotta use it. And I've told Larry before, he was my inspiration for wanting to talk to people. I remember being a
Mm,
13-year-old kid reading his books and thinking, I was a big Larry fan, um,
nice.
and it was like, all right. So I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this, and she's like, well, how are you gonna do it? And I said, well, I'll pull in all the people that I know first. So I get a hold of Spencer Garrett, and I'm like, hey, I need help. He's like, no,
I
he's like, no problem, we got you. So
don't think I've met Spencer yet. What does
uh,
Spencer do?
nice guy. He was on Star Trek Next Generation. He did the drumhead, played, he was a Romulan, half Romulan, that was on trial, and Picard ended up, big Picard speech. You always hear the Picard speech from
Right.
Drumhead, and that
Okay.
was in that episode. And then he came back for Voyager. He played a hologram of a human that was, um, what was it? Who were the big guys? Man, I'm drawing a blank trying to think of enemies from Voyager, but they were
The
creating.
Kazon?
No, not the Kazon. No, nobody
Um,
cares about the
who are
Kazon.
those
We're not,
creepy dudes that steal organs? Those
oh,
guys?
that was that. Well, that's still early. We're talking like season 5.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. I have a little bit of a
um,
gap on Voyager from around five and forward,
yeah.
unfortunately.
But anyway, he ends up playing a like a hologram. It was a bad hologram, but
Okay.
good episode. Really, it was a long 2-hour episode. Um,
Oh, cool.
but
I'll have to look him up. But
yeah,
yeah,
oh
that's
yeah,
awesome. So you knew him and he helped you kind of kick
yeah.
off your stuff?
Spencer was a part of a show. I'm a big fan of The Invisible Man,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was a villain on there. And I mean, by the time this airs, everybody already knows. And I made the announcement yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. We're doing the
I'm not sure.
rewatch podcast with the cast. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
Myself, Vincent Ventresca, Paul Ben Victor, Mike McCafferty. We're all getting together actually tonight. We're recording the first episode tonight.
Of
So,
Invisible Man.
of The Invisible Man. Yeah.
Wow. What years did
Yeah.
that run?
2000 to 2002.
Mm,
It was on
okay.
Sci-Fi Channel. Vincent
Right,
Ventresca.
right.
Most people know him as Fun Bobby from Friends. I don't know if you ever watched
I'm not a
Friends.
huge Friends like
Yeah.
aficionado. So I love the show. I just never watched it all.
Yeah. And then Paul, he's next month he'll be the villain in Lanterns on HBO
Ooh,
Max.
fun. All right.
So it,
That looks like an intense show. I'm looking forward to seeing
yeah,
that whenever I can because we dropped Max recently. But they'll
I
they'll
get
all
that.
consolidate each other eventually.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of other things. I mean, you look him up, Paul Ben Victor, and it's one of those, the face, and you go, hey, okay,
Right, huh? Yeah, 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 yeah. One of those
But
working actors that's in a lot of stuff and just like don't catch their name all the
yeah,
time.
and Spencer
Yeah,
was the one of the main bad guys on I Man, and So there
Okay.
was that connection, and so it was like, so we started this, and but
That's really cool.
this isn't about me. This is about you. Um,
That's all right.
so I
I
am
like lifting people up, remember? That's what we're here to do.
I am curious what your Star Trek story is. You said you've been a fan since eight.
Yeah. So I started science fiction fandom with Star Wars, as so many in my generation did. I was about 2 when we went to the theater to see the first Star Wars film, um, and so I kind of already knew I loved that genre, where my parents were not particularly into that, but I would look for those things. And so randomly, we were at my grandparents' house, and as we did, we drove over there a lot, stayed the night and stuff. And my uncle, who was in college at the time, was visiting, and I woke up as 8-year-old kids do sometimes, and I heard the TV on. So I went down there, and my uncle was watching Wrath of Khan,
Mm.
and it wasn't even that far in yet. So I went over and sat down and watched Wrath of Khan with him, and that I got hooked after that. Also have the classic shared earworm trauma now with everyone that watched that as a kid first. But after that, I was just really into it. So when, then I sought out a third one, because that would have definitely been a couple years after it came out on in theaters. So I think number 3 would have come out pretty soon after that. And so I just like, because no more Star Wars was happening, no new Star
Yeah.
Wars, I kind of went straight into that. So loved number 3. Like I loved Christopher Lloyd as Commander Krug, just like such a great villain. And it just really sparked my imagination as a kid. And then went into number 4, and around that time also Next Generation came on TV, so I started getting into that and loved that. Like I know that things that I learned from that show, principles of how to treat people and how to be a good person, stick with me. And I was raised as a Christian, and I still am. But you can't beat uh, demonstrating the like moral principles and ethical principles through a story to really like convey it to people. And just seeing how they handled all different kinds of aliens and all kinds of different difficult situations. I still think about those now. Just it was formative for me. So yeah, went up through that. I never got into uh whatchamacallit, the next show. I never got into DS9 much then. I think it was just Access, but also getting into high school, and plus I was still really focused on the original cast movies. I went to the theater to see number 6, loved that, bought the soundtrack, still listen to that. And how it opened with the explosion, and then had like Sulu as the captain of the Excelsior, and just like so many, just for an opener, right? And then it
Yeah.
was full of Klingons, which are my favorites. So like, yeah, I love that, and so yeah, man, I've been a fan ever since like seeing Wrath of Khan, and that's a pretty good place to start, if I
It's
do say
good to
so
hear
myself.
that you are the one person I know for a fact I'm going to talk to that doesn't
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, I love Star Trek, but I kind of skipped Enterprise." Um,
Right?
Actually, this
No.
does lead to the question. A lot of times, you
Yeah.
know, people that are on shows don't watch them. Were you watching? Were you still watching?
Like a lot of people, when the show was airing, I had trouble finding UPN and being there at those times. My day job, which you'll hear in different interviews at that time, was I was security officer for Paramount Pictures, like on the
Right.
lot. So the nature of the work that I did was that I didn't have a set schedule of hours. Like I was on call.
Right.
So I couldn't really like decide on this day at this time I'm definitely sitting down to watch thus and such, right? I might be at work, or you know I was in my 20s, man. I was out, dating and carrying on and whatever young actors do. But I didn't watch it at the time. I did though buy the full DVD set from the studio store when it came out. The like fancy silver casing ones that look
Yeah.
like they're some kind of set prop module, right? That you'd plug into something. Um, Still have those, and I bought those because we I got such a steep discount at the studio store. So I watched a bunch. I don't think that I have seen every single one. I have seen certain ones more than once because I was in them, or I was looking for friends that were doing things, and I've been watching more of them now. I just got the Blu-ray set for my birthday, and I've been really like trying to get all my knowledge up on that because I need to know the full scope. But I think to be fair, like a lot of Star Trek fans, I was not that excited watching the episodes that I did see when
Hmm.
they first came out and everything because it was such a different feel and I was really into uh I was used to the level of ships and technology in the original cast films and in Next Gen and all that stuff, and that was exciting. So going backwards to something that was just like a shade more technological than a modern battleship
Yeah.
on the ocean was not that inspiring to me as far as a viewer goes. And I didn't vibe with the theme song either, if I'm being honest. I'll tell you what though, nowadays, uh, our show is the only one where you can sing the theme song in karaoke, and I have, and it's great. So
My
thank you for me.
my niece bought me season one on Blu-ray 2 Christmases ago, and I don't own the rest of them. It kind of
Oh,
put me in a crimp because I'm like, okay, now I have season one. I have to buy the others individually, and that's
oh,
more expensive than buying the whole
right,
set.
right.
But
Buy the whole set and then sell the season one.
oh,
There you
I
go.
always feel bad if I sell things. I
I
couldn't
can
tell you
tell.
how many copies of Wrath of Khan I own in different formats.
Oh, awesome,
Um,
awesome.
uh, my wife always knows if I'm watching Enterprise, like if season one and two are in there, but as soon as the new theme song hits, she does not like that new theme song. Turn it off, skip it.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Yeah,
I,
well, we could get into that from a fan perspective, but I don't want to I don't want to say anything bad
no,
about my own show, you know?
no,
I'm super
I
grateful to have been on it and I love that. And you know what? I cannot even start to second guess any creative decisions made at the level they were made for a show like that. I have never floated in that realm and dealt with that level of having to please studio executives and investors and um, any number of other people who have a stake in the IP. So, man, yeah, I'm not. You'll never hear me like saying anything negative about the people who made the show, top to bottom.
and I get that, and I completely understand that. I wouldn't do it either. Um, when you
Oh,
talk about your background acting, it had me thinking about. I have a friend of mine named Jason. He is shout out to Jason.
mhm.
He's a background actor for the One Chicago shows. He lives in Chicago,
Oh, cool.
so
Okay.
like I I'm bad about this because I don't watch the shows. Like I am when it comes to procedural shows, they bother
Mhm.
me. If
Mm.
I know that it's going to be okay, this plus this equals
Right.
this, I can't do it. But
Fair.
so, but he does it, and he's been on all of them. He's been a nurse. He's been in a bar. He's been arrested. So my joke is to him every time he'll share them on his Facebook. I say, "You're the same character on every show. It's just you know, like some days you're a nurse, some days you're a criminal. It's just,
He's trying to get his life back together and then he fails and then tries again.
exactly. Well, one day he popped up on an episode we were watching something called I don't know, it was like Godfather of Harlem. And
Mhm.
I was like, he come walking by in the background, I'm like, son of a bitch, that Jason. You know, I'm like, I was like,
You're
that's
like
that guy
suspension
from
of disbelief gone.
yeah, because it was like it takes you out of the moment, you know. I'm like, but
Right.
he does the same thing. Like he has a regular day job, so I
Mhm.
understand, you know, the element. And like, there's a lot of times he himself will say, no, I didn't see it, or didn't know, or whatever, because he he would have to, as you said, be on call. He would have a
Hmm.
certain amount of time augmented that he would know or allotted that he would, I can do this, but then I got to go over here and I got to make the money.
Right.
And so it's not something I'm too much of a stranger to hearing about. Um,
Cool.
it does make me wonder, like, were there other shows that you were background acting on?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, obviously I could check your IMDb, but just for the course of this conversation.
Well, yeah, and side note, IMDb can be tricky for background actors because for them to let a credit stand that you put in manually because you didn't get credited on the thing, you've got to be either on a call sheet that they can verify as having been there, or it's got to be so obvious and provide a screenshot basically
Yeah.
that it's viable, right? So like you could look on my IMDb page, but the background stuff you'll see is only Star Trek. But I did have featured spots here and there. Next for volume of appearances was Jag. Do you remember that show?
Oh, of course, yeah.
The show that birthed NCIS and all of those.
I didn't realize it was spent.
Yeah.
Those were, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually even worked the crossover episode. I remember
Huh.
that. Um, So I worked that. I actually earned my SAG vouchers, which is one of the ways that you get into the Screen Actors Guild on JAG before I got onto Enterprise. And because like to be a crew background on Enterprise, you have to be in the Screen Actors Guild. A lot of
Hmm.
people don't know that, but that's why our group is kind of preaching the whole idea of using background actor instead of extra
Yeah.
because background actor implies that you not only are good at acting, but that you happen to be in the background, but you're a recurring character, right? You show up like multiple times. And the NX-01 was tiny, like theoretically had 83 crew, and I think at any given time there were only like 25 people they could call that were already like vetted crew people for the ship, background actors for the ship.
Hmm.
So I was on Jag a bunch, and on Jag probably one of the most featured things that you won't be able to tell it's my face because it was like a retro. It was a recreation of some famous footage from the fall of Saigon, where there's Marines on top of the like perimeter fence of the embassy, and there's a helicopter about to take off, and like one of them reaches down to pull someone up onto the wall, and they had me do that reach pull someone up on
Hmm.
the wall bit. So you can find that historical footage, but they recreated it for this particular episode of Jag. So then that, and then Scrubs was another one that I did a few
No.
episodes on that you can find me on. I didn't work a lot of seasons of that. I think I only worked during like maybe two different seasons of that. But I have at least one featured spot in the cafeteria and walking around. I was dressed up as a nurse basically. Um, and then according to Jim, the one that had Jim Belushi in it,
Yes.
um, was another one. I think I was like a on the bus someplace. I remember wearing a brown suit and I was on a bus and very clear to see. So so yeah, I worked on a lot of shows. Oh, another great one. It was actually West Wing. It was my first background job.
Huh.
It was an episode. I should know this already, what season and everything. It was an episode where it was an election time, and the scene was the president going into a little church to cast his vote, and there were voters there lined up that he was like greeting and everything, and I was one of those guys, and Martin Sheen is so cool, by the way, especially like as a young actor who had done basically nothing in Hollywood except that so far. He when they said cut, we're all just standing there like in a group, waiting for the shot to reset, and he just started going down the line saying, "Hi, my name's Martin. What's your name?" Like he met everybody and like focused on each of us individually to introduce himself, and yeah, that was great. I'll never forget that. It was really
That
cool.
is cool of them. That does
Yeah.
lead me to wonder, like. with that and the other actors that I know from Scrubs and from those shows that you've been on, and by the way, I've probably seen you on Scrubs. I've watched that so many times.
Oh, well then, yeah,
Um,
you have.
yeah,
Young me, no facial hair, no glasses.
I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep an eye
Right
out.
on, right on.
But yeah, because it'll get rewatched. Has there ever
Yeah.
been a favorite actor or someone that you've worked with, and you'd say, okay, that's the pinnacle. They were so cool. They were nice. That has left a great memory for you. Or have you already just answered that?
Um, yeah, I mean, everyone says this. Well, I actually have two answers. I'm going to give you one answer for film and one
Okay.
for television. The television one has to be Scott Bakula. Uh, I did several scenes with him. On the episode Twilight, in the opening scene, I jump out and grab him by the arm on one side, and then have like a emoting thing. Just for instance, like I did scenes with the guy. And we also had conversations just like outside the stages when they were setting up the next shot or whatever, and nothing was happening. I asked him life advice, and then whenever he was on set, he brought a positive and joyous like aura to the set. And then when it was time to go, like it was a great leader that way. And you'll hear this from everybody, right? But like, yeah, I think Scott Bakula is probably pinnacle for me if I'm like looking up to someone, for sure him. And he always took time to have his family come and like be in his trailer. Not saying others didn't do that, but I'm just like it's stuff I noticed that he did. So yeah, yeah, Mr. Bakula.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So for film, it's an answer you might not expect. So after I was on Star Trek and that show wrapped, I continued to be a security officer at Paramount for another 3 years. And one of the things that I worked on that was ironically on stages 8 and 9, which were the same, some of the same stages Enterprise was on, um, was Mission Impossible 3. And I was a security officer for the fire gate where like the armory people would bring stuff in from their trailer. So I was kind of watching the armory trailer and watching the gate at the same time. Um, and I started noticing that like they had really good food. And that may seem trivial or just like why would that matter? But in on productions, you don't see really good food a lot. You see food that is acceptable because it has to be because there's unions, right? Um, but if there's really good food, typically that's reserved for like the important actors, pretty much, right? Or if, some important person like a producer is visiting the set or something, or they may just leave and come back. But this production had good food. Even they even let me, a security officer hired from the studio, who wasn't even on the production technically, they let me have that food. And there was just a very openness about it, which was very unusual. And I learned that it's because Tom Cruise was buying that. Like he paid to make sure everybody, top to bottom, had good food every day. And we're talking about lobster, okay? That level of good food. So like that made impression. And then, funny enough, I got booked doing background work on that as well on a day when I wasn't watching the gate. So I was in the scene at the beginning of the film that is I think it's an engagement party for Ethan Hunt and I forget the
Oh,
character,
okay. Yeah, at the
Katie Holmes,
house
right?
when he goes
At the
get
house.
ice.
Right. And while I was a background actor, again, impressed me because that was on stage 9, and on stage 8 that didn't have anything going on at the time, they had a coffee cart. And in Hollywood, you may not know this, a lot of there you can have any kind of food you want show up to your stage at the studio and set up shop right there. This is before food trucks. I'm not even talking about food trucks. I'm talking about Cold Stone Creamery showing up and having their cold surfaces out on the street in front of the stage, and they're doing ice cream for the crew. Like you can have that done. Okay,
Wow.
anything. So on this occasion, there was a full service coffee cart with a barista just set up on stage 8, and we background people, and there were a lot of us. Like that's the time you definitely are not going to be included on a typical show with anything special. But we were invited to go, and you just order what you want and you get it. There is no money changing hands. It's paid for, right? And
Wow.
on that coffee cart was a little sign that said, "Compliments of Tom Cruise." And so again, so then I passed, like I was coming out of the stage one day from that scene shooting, and Tom Cruise was coming in, and we passed each other in this tiny little breezeway, this between stages 8 and 9 doors, and he was by himself. And so I turned around and I said, "Hey, Mr. Cruz," and he stopped and looked at me. I'm like, "I just want to say thank you for the coffee cart, man. That's super cool, and it's really good." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're welcome. No problem, man." And just smiled, and then just like went back into the stage. So like not only the generosity, but also the very personable connection with someone he didn't know uh, made a big impression on me because as a guard, people are not nice to you a lot, right? Even if they don't have a reason to not be nice to you, because you've got the uniform on and they just have it in their mind. Oh, he's that guy's blocking my goals, right? Um, so yeah, Tom Cruise is my answer for TV or for film rather, and Scott Bakula for TV.
That's good. And can't go wrong with either answer. I mean, I like both. I like both actors, so that's really good.
Right
Um,
on.
it does lead me to. We're gonna go away from the positive, and now it's a little
Oh,
bit of a negative.
oh, all
I
right.
know, I know. Here's the part. What would you say is your Star Trek hot take? Take one element of Star Trek, something that you just can't stand.
Oh, okay. I got to be super real. Uh, I cannot stand the design of the Klingons for Discovery. As I mentioned before, was a Klingons fan from, starting with seeing Star Trek 3 as a boy. Loved Worf, loved seeing the Klingons all the time in Next Gen and in the Next Gen movies. And when those things came out, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like the creature design at all. And I said that I don't typically like second guess people, but this is an exception. I'm just like, I don't understand. Like I get you're trying to put your own stamp on it, and there can be different iterations of Klingons. That's established. That's a very, in-universe kind of thing to do.
More from your
Um,
show than anything.
right. The excuse was made on our show why they
Yeah.
look different. Finally, it was one of the great things that our show did. But yeah, man, I couldn't vibe with it. Like the amount of application on those the creature design made it very hard for those actors to act. Like there's this always this balance of how much stuff can you put on the face and still get a performance with the face that
Yeah.
connects with people, right? For the scene and with the material. And I just felt like those were hampering the actors and just I didn't like the design. So yeah,
No,
that's my hot take, I guess.
I get it. I get it. I think when they changed it in season two with Laurel, I think Laurel's Mary Shifo's I liked it better. The second
Mm.
season, I think it was kind of a good transition. If there was a really good saving grace on that one, I would say Kenneth Mitchell got a lot of different characters he could work, so it
Mm.
gave him a lot of character work, and I
You
like
are
that.
really good with actor names, by the way, which I sometimes fall short on. Like I don't like automatically intake. So I will look those people up. Remind me
Okay,
after.
I apologize. No,
Oh, don't apologize. I'm just not as good at it as you.
uh, but yeah, and but yeah, the design, I get that wholeheartedly. I'm glad that Strange New Worlds went back and made it better, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
The excuse of, oh, they shave their head when they're at war, and I thought, aren't Klingons always at war? Yeah, like, I
It's a
mean,
lifestyle, right?
yeah, it's an internal struggle.
Right.
Um,
Right. Well, they tried to backtrack and you know, it's hard to know industry wise if something's gonna land like a choice that you make about how something looks or what content you put in a script or how you shoot something. It's hard to know what's gonna land with audiences and what isn't.
Yeah.
particularly with a fan base as particular as Star Trek's fan base is. Um, and I do not envy anyone the task of making any new Star Trek because it's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's a lot. So like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say anything negative about the people that made those decisions or made the things. I personally as a fan was like, "Mm, just don't like, right? But and then it's like, well, shoot, how do we help mitigate the negativity of this so that it doesn't impact the viewing numbers and stuff. And there again, that's even harder than making the initial decision. When something like super duper doesn't land like that, uh, that's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I think my thing is, and I'm not trying to toe a company line or anything like that, but I think when it comes to me, when it comes to Star Trek or any show in particular, I look at it like real life. There is no such thing as every day is a great day, so not every episode is going to
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
Not every
Yeah.
year is great, so not every season is going to be great.
Right.
And things change. I mean, oh, this Star Trek isn't like that Star Trek. Well, it shouldn't be.
Right.
Like,
Right.
if let's say you're friends with a guy named Bob, and Bob's over on the Enterprise living up the, great life of all the adventure, and then you're stuck over on, the USS. Oh, this is a really crappy ship, and and, which is first of
Not
all the
naming
worst
names.
name. But
I
so
got
yeah,
I got to add though, real quick, that
yeah.
even though going back to some earlier stuff about watching Enterprise and how I felt about it when it came out, that has nothing to do with my experience working on the show
Oh yeah,
because living it is way different than just watching it on a TV screen, right? And I had watched some episodes before I got on the show, but I'll tell you, man, my first day I worked in the back of the bridge, and when I walked through the side door into that area and the shot was set up to look like the cameras were looking through the view screen from the outside, meaning everything on the bridge is solid. It's got a ceiling, it's got, all the walls. So the suspension of disbelief is very easy because the only
yeah,
thing that's blank is like the screen area. It was a weird, like awesome moment to just go, oh my God, I am on the Enterprise and I work here, right?
yeah,
Like it, so, and every day was like that. Every day was like that. Just one adventure after another. So like, I just want to make it clear that like the fan reaction I had watching the show, particularly initially, and the reaction of being there and doing it, very different, wholly different, you know?
yeah. Oh no, I get it. You know, I, it's funny as you're saying this. I get brought back to a quote from another television show. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called How I Met Your Mother.
Love
And
that show. Love that
there,
show.
there's
Watched
a
all of it.
okay. Well, you might remember the part where one of the characters was saying to another character, and he's saying, it was about Star Wars, and he said the only people that haven't seen Star Wars are the actors that are in Star Wars because they were living the Star Wars.
Right. I love that line.
So it's
They
like
were living the Star Wars.
I always think about that when it comes to actors or anybody that's in Star Trek, and they may say, like, and it's been brought up before, there along at least by me to other people, like when discussing things with other actors, there's like, or let's say Scott Bakula. Okay, Scott Bakula, we'll use him as a hypothetical, example.
Mhm.
If there was an episode like Twilight, we'll use Twilight as an example. It's a very emotional episode. Um,
Yeah.
Watching that one, it's hard not to feel for him or to
Hmm.
feel something, inside for maybe someone that went through,
A mental illness
yeah,
kind of
mental
thing or
illness,
a head
or
trauma. Sure.
exactly. And so when you say something to, like, imagine going to that actor, and you would almost hope that they would remember their role, but sometimes it comes down to it was a role. it was something they did
Right.
and maybe they don't carry with it. But there's sometimes these roles mean so much to people, and
Absolutely. And I've been spending a lot of time the past year that I've been doing letter decks trying to wrap my arms around the breadth and depth of Star Trek fandom. And it's I'm never going to be able to do the whole thing, right? But like I am learning to understand like all the things because I've been a fan for a long time, but I didn't like spend a lot of time really delving into and looking for people to talk to about it because I have friends that were into it, like in my personal sphere, right? Um, and that's one of those things that I have put together is when a real big fan meets that actor, the kinds of questions that get asked are where that fan is hopeful that of two possible things. One is that they were a fan also and experienced doing the show from a fan perspective,
yeah,
right? Which is very different than doing it from a working perspective if you're not a fan of Star Trek already. And the other is that those people um, will love the show as much as them and be able to talk to them about it as a viewer like they are, right? And they want to have a connection with that actor in that way. And like you say, a lot of times that's disappointing because no fault of the actor who there's so many brilliant actors that have done Star Trek, like so many. But not everybody was into Star Trek, and that's okay. Like they're just good actors. But that is some place where Letterdex has uh it turns out, a sort of angle because pretty much all of us were big fans of Star Trek before we got to work on the show. It wasn't just me. Like Glenn Hambley, who I mentioned before, actually moved to Hollywood to be on Star Trek. Like he was an actor already, but like the decision to go and to move to Hollywood with his family was the tipping point was they're going to make a new Star Trek show and I want to be on that. And his wife felt the same way and they were both on Enterprise. Her name's Tamra. She was also a background actor on Enterprise. So and these similar stories are throughout. Like you can watch the interviews with my people and see all that. Um, but yeah, to your point, like it's hard to hear about that. Did you feel that, right?
yeah,
And of course they do. Like I worked on that episode as I mentioned kind of earlier, and the scene that I worked where I had a big featured moment was where we witnessed the Earth being destroyed by the Xindi weapon, right? And so I still remember doing the mental and emotional work to put my feeling into my expression in that moment because I was on camera right there where Scott is also emoting and Linda or I think no, Linda might not have been in her seat, it might have been one of our background people, but you get the idea. Just
right,
that reaction. I remember that. And you connect with it more when you have the sort of luxury as a background actor of only showing up on certain episodes for certain scenes. But when you're an actor that has to go in every day, 5 days a week, and there's a new script every time, and then you've got multiple scenes to do on that script throughout the week, and then you got to go to another one, it kind of blurs together,
yeah.
eventually, it even if you did connect with it that way, that particular one, you might be, wait, was that this one where I had to you know, picture that time my puppy died, or was it this one that time I had to picture my when my puppy died to get that emotion? You know what I mean? It can be it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
I can
A lot of
imagine.
material. Yeah.
You'd mentioned a couple of shows that you really loved and such, and I was wondering, has there ever been a show that has come and gone, or that you had thought, man, I would love to have worked on that somehow in some form?
Oh, well, sure. Uh, the first thing that comes to mind is the Star Wars prequel films because I was just like starting to get into acting at all when they were casting for Attack of the Clones. Or was it the first one? It might have been the Phantom Menace, and nobody knew what the roles were yet, right? Or who was doing it. I'll have to look back to see which one it was, but I actually wrote into Lucasfilm to try to get them to have me into audition for Anakin because people had always commented my whole life about how much I look like Mark Hamill, and I have the right
Excellent.
look. I have the right look to be related into the Skywalkers somehow, right? Um, so I think that one, like looking back with the knowledge I have now of how Hollywood works and everything, I see why it didn't happen. But Lucasfilm did actually write back, and I still have the letter of them very kindly saying, "Hey, we just basically have a lot of people auditioning, and we don't have space for you at this time, but we'll let you know if something like the standard thing, right?" But
Yeah.
just that they wrote back, on Lucasfilm company letterhead was awesome. Um, but as much as I wish I had been able to work on that, I actually did end up working in the Star Wars universe as well, and that work actually connects back to Star Trek, ironically, with the people who I worked with on that. Uh, I've only mentioned this, I think, on one other occasion on a podcast, but I worked on a fan film that was very big called Pink Five. Specifically, the third one, Return of Pink Five. The premise it was a sort of comedic satire of the original three Star Wars films, and it had the main character was a Valley Girl in the Star Wars universe who is a pilot but doesn't really know what's going on, and it has does influences things in important ways that you just didn't know it was her that ended up motivating those events or characters, right? So like the first two won awards in the Lucasfilm Fan Film Awards in consecutive years, and the third one became super big. And I sought them out and got connected. But on that, you'll see on my IMDb, I played Luke Skywalker on that, and I also did a lot of uh, stunt stormtrooper work, and I ended up being an associate producer on it and other roles like assistant director. We went to the Redwoods to shoot Endor scenes, like for real. Got and the connection over is that the star of that whole series, playing the Valley Girl, was an actress named Amy Earhart, who um, my first day working on the production, I'm doing things, and I got onto Star Trek because someone introduced me to Brandon Braga. So I already knew Terry Matalas from that because to get to Brandon, you had to go through Terry, right? And so I'm there, and I'd already been working on Star Trek for a while. It was almost the end of the show actually, and I'm in this tiny stage in Ventura, not even like at a real big studio or anything. And in walks Terry Matalas, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And it turns out he was scouting for talent because he had seen the other two films, and he's like, that gal can act, and he, I guess, pitched it or to Brandon and was like, we could use her on the show. And so he was there to see her actually about it. And as it turns out, they got along really well because they started dating and then got married, and now she's Amy Earhart Metalis and voiced the computer voice on the Titan for Picard season 3, and is doing a lot of stage acting nowadays. But yeah, and we had Dave Trotty, who was one of the assistant directors on Enterprise, come in a few days to help out once Terry was involved. He was there and put in a lot of hours. I don't know if money, but probably to finish out that big short film. It ended up being longish, but you can see all of that on Amazon Prime now. Just look
That's
up Pink
awesome.
Five. Yeah,
Yeah,
spelled out,
you
not
you
number five.
did discuss this on Trekking Up North. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were on there.
Okay, well, you remember. Yep. So
Yeah, it
there you
was
go.
the 2 hour epic. Um
Yes. We
Terry
talk about so
Metalis
many
has
things.
come up quite a bit in this today, actually.
Oh,
I was talking with Dave Blass this morning. Long
oh, cool.
story. Yesterday, Dave Blass and I were chatting about Huey Lewis and the news.
Nice. No big deal. Just talking to Dave Blass.
But so we were talking about Huey Lewis, and then This morning I turned on Rosenbaum's Inside of You, and Huey Lewis was the guest. So I
Oh.
sent a message to Dave, and I'm like, look, and he's like, oh, that's cool, you know. It's like, but in the interim, we find out like Terry Metalis is a huge Huey Lewis fan. So it's
Okay.
like all of it connects together somehow.
Right,
But
right. It all comes back. Well, Hollywood is a very small town when it comes down to it. Like if you, I think I heard a number once that like all the people who work cast and crew on shows consistently in Hollywood was only like 4,000 people or something like that, 4 or 5,000 people. And so you end up running into people like people connect to other people all the time. It's crazy how many of those there are if you really start looking. But yeah, definitely.
you mentioned how I remember actor names and stuff. It's kind of a curse when like if like let's say like my wife and her family as an example. I don't think they like the fact that I memorize IMDb. So so like we're watching The Pit. We started watching The Pit recently,
Uh,
and we're watching it. And I'm like, I see that guy there. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was on that show. And then that's Bryan Cranston's daughter. Oh, she was on
nice.
Star Trek Picard. You know, so I was like,
Nice. Nice.
you know, and they're just like, just shut up and watch the show, Ed. You know,
Well, now I know who to talk to if I ever get stumped about who was that person or what was that, connection. I'm
you
a
should
I'm a
really see
message
me watching Jeopardy. So
Right? Should compete, dude.
if it was closer, I would. But here I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but
Sorry.
it's
But
okay.
they built the first warp starship in the middle of nowhere too. So there's that.
True, true. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Bozeman, Montana, and check that one out. So
Right? Right? I can't remember. Did they shoot on location for any of that in
I don't,
actual like Montana?
I don't think they actually filmed in Montana, but we can look that up
You
because
can
I'm
you
curious
could
enough to find
definitely
out.
yeah, do that. You could definitely fake Montana in parts of areas that are near Los Angeles. So you're probably right. Like I don't know why they would need to necessarily go to actual Montana when they could go to like Big Bear or Arrowhead or something, a little
I think
northeast and
I think
get
the
all
only thing
that.
that would help it would be bringing money into that area or something. But
Yeah, true. Usually, in production when you're trying to argue like going like picking the whole operation up and going to a whole different state or country, there has to be a compelling reason for them to spend the money to do that, um, because it's a lot and there's a lot of like photo similar areas around the Los Angeles that are perfectly good for a lot of places and in the studios of course.
we're looking
uh
at Los Angeles and Green Valley, Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, I have to look at that more later. But that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that they went to Arizona for that. But that is the only like outdoor location was supposed to be the Bozeman, Montana like launch site in that encampment, huh? Wow. Oh, you learn something every day. Arizona's easier to drive to, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
From Los Angeles.
Yeah, like what, 3.5, 4 hours?
Sure. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know where Green Valley is in the state,
Oh yeah, I don't know that.
but I
Yeah.
mean, it touches Southern California, so like way closer than Montana
I
for
know you
sure.
can make it to the 4 points in 4 hours from Los Angeles.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah, yeah, and more or less like Las Vegas and stuff, which is what like five
yeah,
or something. Yeah,
yeah, it depends on how fast you drive. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, there's that.
but yeah, I gotta tell you, this has been fun. I'm glad
Yeah,
we were able to work out scheduling and get you on here.
me too, man.
Um,
Yeah, this is fun.
and yeah, I want to give you a moment for self promotion one last time and tell
Oh, of
people where to
course.
find you.
Thank you very much. So we have the website www.letterdex.com, and that has links over to our socials and a place to sign up for our hypothetical newsletter, which one day I'll get off my butt about. But our main account is Instagram. That's kind of where I operate everything from, and that's at letter underscore dex. And you can find me personally on Instagram as well on my actor page at Duncan_K_Fraser, Fraser, not like the show, no I. So look on YouTube also at letter_decks again. I have a playlist built there that links to all of the different interviews that I and others in Letter Decks and as a group we've done. I think we've got like 16 different things there, and you can also see on that my panel intro that I did for an Enterprise 25-year retrospective for Phoenix Fan Fusion
Right.
recently that played. So yeah, check us out there, follow us, look at our content, like, subscribe. We don't have a lot of original content yet, but we're getting there. But definitely find us at the Las Vegas convention if you are going, and we'll probably maybe show up in Philadelphia as well. So we'll see. Like, it's convention season now, but there'll be more. There'll be more conventions we'll be at. There'll be 5 of us in Las Vegas, by the way. Um, Myself, of course, Glenn Hambley, as I mentioned. Cricket Yee, who was the stand-in for Linda Park, Jen Anderson, who is, or I should say, Jennifer Anderson, PhD, who was the stand-in and photo double for Jolene Blaylock and was also Ensign Anderson on the show. And then John Jurgens, who I lovingly refer to as the Doug Jones of Letterdecks because he did so many aliens and worked the whole run of Enterprise doing a lot of different aliens and he was also an ensign on the ship. All of us had ship stuff to do. Others like Glenn, he was often Andorians or Vulcans. So anywho, check us out.
Wait.
Instagram, YouTube, online,
Yeah, definitely give them, follow, like, share,
please.
and yeah, and then go over to IMDb. You'll be a credit on. You'll have this as a credit too.
Oh,
So,
fun.
yeah,
Yay. That's cool. I have one captain's quadrant on there too, I think.
yeah. I'm supposed to, but Joe is really bad about adding things on there, and I asked him. I was like, "Hey, you gonna add that on there?" There's so many, man. I was like, I understand.
What you need to do is go outside and find you a stick about this long and then just like whittle the end until it's sharp and then like poke Joe every now and then with that sharp stick. Eventually, you'll get there.
That's better than when I say it. It only takes me 6 hours to drive where you live. You know.
Ooh, veiled threats.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was like, I'm not saying I'm there to visit. I don't know.
But I
So,
might be in your area very soon.
oh, he knows I just kid. I just
No,
kid.
he's cool. Him and Jason both really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thank you for your time and thanks for being
My
here.
pleasure.
And I really appreciate it. And have
Sure
a
thing.
great time at STLV. That's going to be fun. I can't
Definitely
wait.
will. Thanks for having me on, Ed. I really appreciate it. I always love rapping about Star Trek, of
Oh,
course.
you're most welcome.